All right. How's it going? Today we are going over discussion four, which goes over this podcast episode entitled "Is 2 trillion the right medicine for a sick economy?" And I already typed it out here, but I figured I'd just kind of give a brief overview of it on video just to get that extra credit there. And question one says, according to the episode, what are some different forms of government aid provided during the COVID-19 pandemic, and how do these aid programs differ in terms of their goals, beneficiaries, effectiveness? According to the experts interviewed in this episode, how effective was this aid in stabilizing and rescuing the economy? Explain. So, what I wrote down is that some of the different forms of financial aid that the government provided during the COVID pandemic was the CARES Act, which provided stimulus payments, which were aimed to provide relief to individuals who faced economic struggles because of the pandemic. Another form of aid was enhanced unemployment benefits, as most people were out of jobs due to the lockdown, and other forms of aid, such as specialized loans for small businesses who risk going under due to the lockdown, assistance to local governments, and specialized healthcare support, which we'll get more on that one here soon. But it seems that most people in the podcast thought that these were all great benefits of the CARES Act, and most agreed that the speed of rolling out the stimulus checks were a tad bit slow. But they do, however, say that the speed at which the government was willing to help was quite efficient compared to something like in 2008 when the economy was taking a big hit, or just at other moments when it was more of a financial crisis than a healthcare crisis. But COVID 19 was a healthcare crisis, which is, you know, something that we'll get into a little bit more here soon because I have some personal kind of questions about that one. But on that same note, someone who mentioned in the podcast a really interesting thought that I do agree with a lot is Austin Goolsbee, which I can't remember who he worked for. It was some government job. But he did mention how one of the downsides of the bill was that it did not address how to reduce the speed of the virus itself. He expressed how it was unfortunate that the money that wasn't spent on more ventilators or he was expressed how it was unfortunate how money wasn't spent on more ventilators or healthcare personnel. And overall, these aid programs played a vital role in stabilizing the economy and did, in fact, prevent a more severe hit to our economy, but there were challenges such as delays and administrative issues which hindered their effectiveness in reaching those in need. Number two, uh, over of all government, federal, blah blah blah, spending and aid that was provided during the COVID pandemic, which one had the greatest impact on your life? So for my life personally, in the past during those 2 years, the government aid that had the greatest impact on my life was stimulus payments and enhanced unemployment benefits because during that time I was sort of doing I was doing freelance work, and my income was significantly impacted by the pandemic, and the stimulus payments helped cover my essential expenses during the periods of reduced income, while the enhanced unemployment benefits provided crucial support when there was no work opportunities for me out there in the market. However, during this time, I did have a couple of roommates who were not able to get their benefits right away due to some sort of issue, and they really did struggle financially during this time. Also, some businesses that didn't shut down, since there's not a lot of customers coming in, they cut hours of a lot of employees, and one of my roommates, unfortunately, was one of these people. And during the pandemic, he couldn't get unemployment because he was still employed. His stimulus checks weren't coming in or something like that because of someone accidentally claimed him as a dependent, and he was out of work, out of money. He during the pandemic had to go out and find a job when they were saying, "Oh, stay inside, don't go outside." So this guy was doing the exact opposite of that, just trying to make enough money to eat, pretty much. And number three, do you think the government, blah, 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 spent enough money to help stabilize the economy? If not, where should they have spent the money? So this is where I will come into on my gripe with the healthcare system. Because while I believe that the government did do a good enough job, I'd have to agree with Austin Goolsbee's statement on how more money could have been spent towards healthcare infrastructure so that we may have properly been equipped to deal with the virus at its core instead of treating the symptoms, which the symptoms were a bunch of civilians getting sick. if more money was spent on ventilators, then also too maybe the death toll could have gone down, for instance. And all in all, I believe the $2,000 stimulus checks might have been kind of overkill when literally anyone who applied for it during the time could have also applied for EBT food stamps. That is. And, during this time, people were illegally allowed to be late on rent and not get kicked out. And squatters' rights are weirdly developed in Washington state to the point to where if your friend, let's say, stayed over for 2 weeks, legally you cannot call the cops to get them kicked out. And that one I speak from experience because I've had experience with a friend. Hope they're doing good. Just they partied way too much and we had to get them out of there. So it was, all in all, it was just a really, the way how they dealt with the pandemic was they tried to deal with it like an economic issue and not a healthcare issue. And that's my gripe with it. So, all in all, I agree with Austin Goolsby. And all in all, I think the episode was great. I think it had great points. And I'm out of here.